All right, let's start it up. City of Milton Common Council meeting. Let's call it to order Tuesday, January 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And can I get appropriate or confirmation of appropriate meeting notice?
Meeting notice was posted at Milton City Hall, Milton Piggly Wiggly, and Hometown Ace Hardware.
Okay, so we've had a request to move our agenda around just a little bit. So it is, we're going to move items 10 and 11. 9 and 10. Isn't it 10 and 11?
10 and 11, yeah. Football stuff.
Oh, excuse me.
10 and 11 to, well, they're just going to come after number 7. There'll be our new 8 and 9. And everything else will just move down.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so when we get to 7, remind me, I have a new 8. Pledge of Allegiance. How about Chief Saxey? Lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's 2 mayoral proclamations, one proclaiming Blood Donor Month and one proclaiming Human Trafficking Month that I will sign. And then number 7, approval of minutes from January 4th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries. Our new number 8 is...
Just a note, did you want to address number 4 on the agenda?
Clearly not.
I guess.
Okay. It started at Plan Commission. My whole afternoon's been off. All right, so that seems to be the one that I typically forget. I guess I need it in red or something. Public comments regarding items which can be affected by council action. Do we have anybody signed up? Oh, Brian, did you want to talk now or when we go to? Yeah. Yep. Okay. So Brian is with the Milton Youth Football, correct? Okay. So that's it then. Okay. All right. So we'll go to number 8, the Milton Youth Football. Discussion and possible action regarding a conditional use permit for junior youth football of Milton.
Junior Youth Football of Milton uses a garage built by them, but owned by the city. They're requesting to build an additional 320 square feet section onto the shed. Since the property is zoned R2, a conditional use permit is required for private detached garages greater than 800 square feet. City Administration recommends approving the conditional use permit, and Planning Commission also recommends approving the conditional use permit.
Any questions or comments?
I would move approval of the conditional use permit.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. And then discussion and possible action regarding a request from Milton Youth Football to waive the conditional use permit application fee.
During the application process, Milton Youth Football had to pay the conditional use permit application fee. They are requesting the fee to be waived because ultimately the building will be owned by the city. It's I guess up to the council at this point if they want to waive that fee or not.
I'll move to waive the fee.
Second.
Any questions, discussions, or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion
Use more storage space.
carries. Congratulations. Good luck at basketball tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're back to 10, which is 8, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is a hearing, discussion, and possible action on an application for a chicken permit at 363 Northside Drive. So who wants to take this? Starting off.
Okay, I can start. Melinda and Jeremy Doe have submitted an application for the keeping of chickens at 360 Northside Drive. And part of that process is we send out letters to the abutting and surrounding properties. And with that, they have 14 days to file an objection. We have received 3 objections to the application. So based on the ordinance, then a hearing is set in front of the council between the applicant and the objectors. So with this process, then it would be the applicant would provide information, then the objectors would provide information. So this is a hearing and the objections have not been reviewed by council since all the information is provided here this evening.
Do we have a copy of the application provided to us?
Yes, it should be in there. If not, I can go ahead and send it over. But yes, yeah. Let's see if it.
I think just the memo.
Yeah, we did not receive the application.
And then Attorney Mark, while we're waiting to get the application sent to us, what is your recommendation of how to proceed in our first hearing? I think your mic has to be turned on.
That's a good idea. Yeah, as Jenny has indicated, I guess first of all, I'd recommend that Jenny just confirm that the application is complete. And then once that is done, then the applicant would present their evidence outlining their application to the council. And that could include oral and written submission. If they want to call any witnesses on their behalf, then they can do that. After they rest in terms of making their and that's just so the council has a good idea of what it is that's in issue here, what their application is. After they're through, then those who have filed objections and have requested a hearing can present whatever evidence they feel is appropriate as a reason for not granting the application. And then when they are through, then the applicant has an opportunity to respond to the objectors with any additional information they want to have. And of course, at any point during this time, that there's a presentation either by the applicant or the objectors, the council has the ability to ask any follow-up questions if you want some clarity on anything that's been stated or submitted. Okay. And then following the submission of the evidence by both sides, then the council would determine whether or not to grant the application. And then the decision on whether or not to grant the application would then be submitted in writing to both the applicants and objectors within 10 days of today.
And voting either to permit or deny the application, is it a simple majority?
Yes, 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 it is. And then, of course, if there's there's various decisions that can be made. One, the decision can be made to approve the application as is. Two, it can be made to approve it with conditions. Or three, it can be made to deny. If it's going to be made to deny, like any decision, then there should be some basis stated for that.
Okay, and then is it just like,
And you're correct, and it's just the majority of the council. That's correct.
and there's no standard of evidence like clear and convincing or a preponderance, or there's no standard of, do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
asking?
Yes, the ordinance doesn't state it, so I would say it would be by preponderance of the evidence. That's the normal civil burden of proof. Absent something like an ordinance, then that's clear and convincing, but an ordinance violation. But the ordinary civil burden of proof is preponderance of the evidence.
And who has the burden of proof?
In this case, I would say that if the individual has submitted a complete application, there's a hearing because it's being requested by the objectors. So I would say that they would have the burden of proof to show that it's not appropriate to grant the application, or at least not to grant the application as submitted.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions so far about what the role and the responsibility is of the council? And if you do at any time, please ask the question. And then, are there time limit guidelines, or just,
No, there's no time limit in terms of the submission of evidence. However, the evidence does need to be relevant to the issue, whether or not it's appropriate to grant the permit. So we do have the authority to stop an individual from continuing to provide evidence which really doesn't get to the issues. That is whether or not there's a reason to not issue the permit.
and does the applicant or the objectors, they don't have like a right to, I guess I have no idea. Does anybody have a right to object to anything?
It's not a hearing where there's necessarily rules of evidence. That's why I'm saying really the only thing is whether or not it's clearly irrelevant, you know. And so no, there's no right of cross-examination. That's why, or objection per se. It's not that type of judicial hearing. So that's why I'm saying that the appropriate procedure is for the applicant to proceed first. Normally, it would be the objectors, but in this case, the council really wouldn't have an idea of what the application is about if that happened. So the applicant would proceed first to explain their application and present whatever they have in support of their application. The objectors, in lieu of being cross-examining, would then present their evidence after having heard what the applicant had to say, and then the applicant, rather than cross-examining, would have an opportunity to reply with their own additional evidence.
Okay, got it. So, this is the first time we've ever had a hearing like this, and so it'll be an educational process for all of us. So please be patient and respectful of each other and for us. And so, Jenny, I'm gonna ask you if the application is complete to our expectations for an application.
The application is complete and it was provided to the council members, so if someone would like a printed copy, please let me know.
All right, so Jeremy and Melinda Dull, 363 Northside Drive, will, if you could come up to the podium, either one or both of you, and then for the record, announce your first and last name and your address.
All right, I'm Jeremy Dull from 363 Northside Drive.
I'm Melinda Dole. This is my husband. We applied for a permit to keep chickens at our resident property to build a coop for 4 chickens for the. I don't know if you guys have ever had farm fresh eggs. They're definitely different than store-bought eggs, and we are very excited for the opportunity that the city of Milton has granted for people. I don't know what else you want.
I got it. So we put in the application in December for us to ideally build the chicken coop coming in the spring. Starting in February, I believe, is when you have to actually order the chickens so that they go from chicks to adults. So that's kind of the timing on where we're at. Look through the entire city ordinance, all the rules and regulations, the roosters allowed, having to make sure the coop is clean, not within so far of distance to each individual, property. Got the plans for the coop to make sure the chickens have the proper amount of space as the ordinance, says that we're allowed to do. And then we did the submission. So in the submission, we have the positioning of our coop that is well over the 25-foot, minimum that's expected in the ordinance, away from any, residents. So at this point, I don't see a reason not to be able to get the chickens because we're following all the criteria that the city council has put into the rules and regulations for having backyard, chicken coops in the city. At this point, since we aren't sure of the process, I know I was given the letters of complaint. Do I wait till my second stage to kind of go over any evidence against that, or?
Well, you can put in whatever you want at this point in time, and then after the objectors have an opportunity to respond to you, then you would have an opportunity to respond after that as well. Okay.
All right, so we ended up getting 3 complaints from the neighbors as far as objections to having the coop. 2 of them cited the issue of concern with critters because we have coyotes running around in the prairie area near our dead end on 363 Northside Drive, and they're worried that having a chicken coop is going to bring more pests and coyotes into the neighborhood. At that point, it's already an issue. We've put security cameras in our backyard with lights and everything to scare coyotes away, which has worked. So it's already an existing issue. So I don't see how chickens are going to make that worse. And we also have the pheasant farm that's pheasant farm is still there, but if not, it was there for the entirety that we've lived here. So I don't see how 4 chickens is going to be worse than an entire pheasant farm, as far as attracting those types of, animals to the neighborhood. The other concerns that they have are odor, noise, health concerns, all the stuff that's just general concerns with having chickens, which I'm sure the city council has already addressed all those when they passed the ordinance to allow it to happen in the city lines in the first place. That's why we have to scoop the poop and all that stuff daily, clean up the feed, to avoid pests, odors, and all that. We're not allowed to have roosters based on the noise level. The chickens that we're looking at obtaining are gonna totally slaughter the last name, but they're buff chicken varieties is what they're called, like Orpington chickens, which are rated as one of the quietest chicken breeds out there. So we're trying to take all that stuff into account with our choices that we're making. So at this point, I don't really feel like any of the complaints that they have are anything that isn't just generalized complaints for holding chickens, which I'm assuming the city council has already addressed before they passed the ordinance in the first place. The only other thing is they're talking about property value, And from everything I found, I've not found any evidence for or against on if having a chicken coop in the neighborhood increases or decreases property value versus not having a chicken coop.
Could council ask them questions if they needed clarification on anything at this point?
Yes.
Council, do you have any questions or comments?
I have a question. On your application, you're said that you would like to eventually have 8.
We haven't ever had chickens before, so we didn't want to take on too much all at one time. So I think we would just start with 4 and kind of see how it goes. And, maybe eventually get more. We have a large family, so it might be beneficial. I mean, we might eat more eggs. I don't know. So, but the idea would be to start with 4 and go from there.
Originally 4 was the limit, but then we were told when turning in the application that it was recently updated to being able to have 8. So that's why I put maybe 8, because we kind of were going with the limit, but don't know if we want to try again to lean 8 right off the bat, not knowing how much of a workload it's going to be.
I think what she's getting at is I think you need more space if you were to go more than 4.
Yeah, we would build a bigger run.
I have a question for our attorney. If the council grants an application for 4 and then someone that's been granted an application based on 4 decides to have 8, do they come back with a different application or amend their application, or how does that work?
Well, they need to amend their application because I believe that this application contains their information regarding the facilities they're building for the chickens. And so, as noted, in this case, they would be inadequate for more of the chickens, so they would need to amend their application to come back to request more.
So if they did that, then would notices be resent out because it's a new application?
Yes.
Any questions from any other council members right now? Does the dimensions submitted in the application for 4 that have been submitted, do they meet our ordinance requirements for 4?
Yes, they do meet the ordinance requirements.
Is there anything in the application that doesn't meet the ordinance requirements?
No. That would be the first start of it. Is our staff looks at that and it is in compliance with what is in the current ordinance for chicken keeping.
I do have a question. Approximately how large is your lot? Do you know in terms of,
It's 0.25 acres.
okay.
Any other questions? All right, if you, do you have anything further to add? Is there anything you think we should know at this point? You'll have another opportunity, but at this point, is there anything that we should know that we haven't talked about yet from your perspective? All right, thank you. So we have objectors and they're not required to speak. Is it optional if they've filed an objection to speak at the hearing?
It's optional, but if they don't submit any evidence, then there's nothing to consider on part of their objection.
If somebody submitted something, an objector submitted something in writing but didn't want to speak, do we consider what they submitted in writing and read it for the record?
If they want to submit it today in writing to the council, then they can just do that. If they don't want to speak, I guess that's up to them. But as Jenny indicated at the outset, it's whatever they submit today to you at this hearing.
So if there's any objectors that would like to speak now, please come to the podium. First and last name and your address, please.
I'm Matthew Meyer. I live at 372 Northside Drive. Across the street and one unit north of the Dolls.
Just a second, can you move a little bit closer to this
Tip the mic
and tip the mic up? We're not catching it. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Is that better? Okay. Do you need any of that repeated?
Go ahead and repeat it all. It's just
Okay.
for our recording, so people that are watching it can't hear it if it's on the microphone. Thanks.
Matthew Meyer. I live at 372 Northside Drive. So I did not prepare any type of evidence package to submit to the council tonight. So it was just my written statement to Jenny earlier in the year. And my main concerns are really surrounding the rodent issues that we've had on Northside Drive. And all of the residences on the east side of Northside Drive, across the street from the Dolls, have had rodent issues and have paid for services to come out to rectify those issues. Being from the country and growing up around farms, I'm quite familiar that as soon as there's chickens around, no matter how often you clean or keep it clean as best you can, rodents come along with chickens. And the fact that we already have existing issues, significant issues, one of the neighbors has paid over $10,000 to get their attic insulation removed and replaced. I'm fearful for what having the chickens on the property might bring as far as increased rodent activity. Again, I don't have any evidence to submit to the council other than that. At least 3 of us on the other side of the road have paid for services in the past to rectify rodent issues. I guess we could dig those invoices up and submit those if we needed something in writing. The other thing is the coyote activity. We do have coyotes typically early in the morning when I go out on the back deck. You can see coyotes running around in the woods or in the farm field behind our house, and we hear them yipping and howling at night. So they're a regular occurrence, and I agree. It's an existing problem. However, having the chickens on such a small lot, we're all kind of under quarter acre there. Our houses are tightly packed together. Having kind of a food source for the coyotes there, in my opinion, would attract them, just like with the rodents. And that's really my only concern. Not really with the property values. I don't think that the chicken coop itself would make my house any less valuable on the market. Just the rodents and the coyotes.
And when you're talking about rodents, is there specific rodents that you're talking about?
Yep, so field mice and rats. So we have had pretty sizable rats outside of our house, and in our garage we have mice issues. I believe Jim Darcy had mice in the attic. Those are specific ones.
Okay. And it's are there still farm fields farmed in that area?
Yes, on the east side of Northside Drive, behind those houses, there's a farmer's field, an acre or 2 in size, that is regularly cultivated with corn, soybeans. They rotate the crop. And then behind my house, 372 and 388 to the north of me, it's all woods.
All right. Any questions from council?
How long have you lived in your property?
I bought my house in 2011.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything further that you would like us to know that you have not shared with us or that you can think of that might be helpful?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Samuel Clapper. I live at 375 Northside Drive, so I am a direct neighbor to the Dulls. to the north. So on the west side of the street. My main concern, being that I am right next door, was the proposed location of the chicken coop. Looking at the letter that I was provided, it appears that the proposed location of the chicken coop is on my property line, you know, with the setback, whatever that setback is, for footage. I know property values have been mentioned, and it was one of my concerns in the letter. But the main concern is when I go to sell my house in 5 years, because that's my long-term plan. We're moving in 5 years. People coming in, looking at my house, seeing a chicken coop, you know, some people's opinions obviously differ greatly about chickens and livestock being raised in the city and living next to that. So my main concern is actually losing potential buyers in the future when I go to sell my house in 5 years. That's my main concern. I will say that I do have concerns about the rodents and the coyote problem that we have. Yes, we have the pheasant farm, you know, right down the road within half a mile, 3/4 mile, whatever it is. So the coyotes are in the area. However, it's a concern that the chickens being now in the actual residential area might deter those coyotes from going over to the pheasant farm to feed and now coming through our backyards to potentially feed on chickens. So that's another concern. You know, mice, rats, I guess, could definitely be a concern. I guess, I mean, if they stay outside, I don't have a huge concern with it, but I understand they are disease carriers. So that's a lesser concern of mine. So my main concern, though, is definitely loss of potential buyers for my home. Some people love chickens and livestock. They would come in, probably see that chicken coop and think nothing of it. Others might come in, do a U-turn and leave. So I guess that's kind of where I stand. So.
Council, do you have any questions?
Could you clarify your statement that you made about the coop being next to your property line, or did you say on your property line?
From what I saw on the provided sheet, there was a yellow triangle that proposed the location of the chicken coop being in the northwest corner of their property. So obviously on my side, obviously I'm assuming there's a setback law with structures of that sort. I don't know. I haven't looked into the ordinances. I don't know if you could provide that information to me tonight. If there is like a certain footage, I mean.
It's the 25 feet away from a habitable residential structure from on an adjoining property.
Sure. Okay.
So help me interpret that. Is it 25 feet from a structure or 25 feet from a lot line?
It's from a structure, and the word is, and I'm going to butcher this wrong, habitable, thank you, structure. Yes, that is what it specifically says, is how far away is from a residential structure. It can be on your property, so there's not a specific one in our ordinance that says how close it can be to that property line, but it's the next habitable structure on an adjoining property.
Okay. And then are there structure rules as to how the coop is built and how it's, you know, what goes into building the structure? Some chicken coops could be not pleasant to look at. Some could be, you know, if you really put a lot of effort into it and a little bit of money, I mean, maybe they're not so bad to look at, but I mean.
So it needs to be structurally sound, but there's not a building permit application that's taken out. This particular application did include a picture of the proposed coop. So that is something we can provide. We can put on the screen if you'd like, but and it looks like it is one that is from a store. It's not a handmade one or homemade or etc. So to answer your question, yes, if it is if not structurally sound, it causes a hazard, it would be a violation. But there is not anything specific that I'm aware of in the ordinance that says how it could be built.
Any other questions from council? Anything else you would like to tell us at this time?
No, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Okay.
Some Breitbach. We're at 358 North Pheasant Ridge.
And just a little bit closer to the microphone.
All right.
There we go.
All right. Good deal. So I wasn't sure when Jenny was talking earlier, you did or did not present the letters, or you will or will not present the letters?
So since it's a hearing, we do not present letters. However, this is a question for Mark, is that I do have your letter that has information in it that can that be submitted as written evidence?
Yes, they can submit anything in writing that they want to this evening for the council to consider. Yes.
So I would need to resubmit that, or
No,
No, we have copies right here.
Okay,
It was, the process was just not to give the information prior to the hearing taking place.
gotcha. No, just wanted to make sure that.
Yep, she's passing them out right now.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
I'm gonna just highlight bullet points here. I'm trying not to go too in depth and kind of echo some of the things that our other neighbors had said already. But I did way more research on this topic than I ever thought I would do in my life, and I tried to put that in here into the writings there, including citations of where I'm pulling my information. Odor being one of those concerns. Of course, I have no idea. I expect that they would, take very good care of the property and make sure that they're cleaning up and everything. But my understanding is it's on the citizens and residents around them to be able to bring up concerns if there are any odors or, any problems that we have there, and then report those and have to kind of deal with the consequences of that. Whoever's going to follow up from the city or the police department to be able to do that. But odor is definitely a concern, and again, cited my citations there. In terms of health concerns, yes, somebody mentioned disease and stuff, that's a potential. We're not planning to be handling them, but I do expect that the dolls are going to be cleaning equipment and such on their property, and I don't know what's going to come across under our property lines. We do have a dog as well, and want to make sure that there's nothing being introduced into our yard that might impact him or our children or ourselves. We also suffer, a couple of us in our family suffer from allergies, and introducing another potential allergen in feathers and dander from the chickens is a concern for us. I think that also plays into the discussion around property values and potential buyers for a home in the future. In some cases, people aren't going to care, and in other cases, it could be a relatively large impact on us, whether it's a single buyer or if we're potentially not able to pit people against each other in a bidding for a property. If they do have health concerns, that would be a problem. We talked about rodents already. Definitely a rodent problem, as we've heard. We've had them in our area as well on the other side of the street, so we're very familiar with that. Increase in fly attraction as well was another big one that I came across in research. Making sure that everything is taken care of there. Neighborhood aesthetics we talked about, and then attraction of predators. We've heard a lot about coyotes tonight. I think we're missing out on some of the other ones: raccoons, possums, skunks, fox. All of those are in our area. And I think I didn't memorize. Jenny showed me kind of where a lot of the approved coops are in town. So I didn't memorize all those, but I remember a lot of them that you showed me. And I think our particular area and where this is being asked to be built is a little different than some of those other ones that are more in the city. whereas we're kind of on the outskirts and we do have those farming areas around us. So I'd like that to be considered as well. And then lastly, I think on here is just noise. Chickens in general should be fairly quiet, but these are right outside our bedrooms, and we didn't sign up to live in a farming area, so having these kind of, even with the setback, is a concern for us in terms of being able to sleep, or in my case, I work from home as well, so having them right outside my office all day doesn't really appeal to me. So, thank you.
Is there any questions from the council?
Just curious, how tall is your fence?
I'm sorry, say that
How
again?
tall is the fence? Yeah.
6 foot.
And it's a privacy fence?
It is.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a question from Mark. Is the land that's being farmed in the city limits or in the township? Do you know?
I've got it right here. It is within the city limits.
So the farming is taking place in the city limits?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, if the applicants have anything further to add, this would be your opportunity. You don't have to come back and add anything, but this is your opportunity if you would like to.
I just wanted to make a few comments. The building plans that we provided, it's not pre-built from a store.
Can you, again, the mic.
Sorry.
Thanks. I'm sorry.
So short. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not going to be a pre-built coop. We did purchase building plans that have amount of space that we needed, but it also included a run that is completely fenced in, so the chickens will be protected from predators. But also it would be painted something similar to match our house, so aesthetically it won't stick out like a sore thumb.
And also add, it would be a better quality than like just buying one of the pre-built, things that pretty much would fall apart immediately.
So I wanted to mention that.
Good.
But I think we addressed most everything.
And we can run down kind of just in rebuttal, like I definitely, feel for people who have rodent issues and having to, pay money. We had a service for a while, too. We had, field mice, running around the yard, digging up, the grass and everything. Obviously we took the same measures to get things out of our backyard. I did mention earlier as well, we had coyotes running around in our backyard, they were actually leaving their feces all over our backyard, which I actually thought was the neighbor's dogs running around that run around free. So we ended up getting security cameras and everything to find the coyotes and have the automated lights that flick on if they come to the property. That stopped them from coming. I haven't seen coyotes caught on my camera in pretty much the entirety of a year. Same with possums and other stuff. Very rarely will any of the security cameras around our house pick up any animals beyond, neighborhood dogs and cats that are, running through the property. We can kind of go down and rebut on some stuff.
I did want to comment on odor. If you use pine pellets, or you can use like a coffee ground type material, that would just eliminate the odor coming from the chickens, if there was any. But we do plan on scooping daily. We plan on definitely taking care of our chickens. Don't see that being an issue at all. Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, and same with the attracting of pests. I would probably be one of the first ones to get rid of our chickens itself if we started having, rats and mice and things like that starting to get into our property more aggressively. Obviously, as far as drawing in predators, we plan on having, motion like deterrent stuff and everything, to obviously keep our chickens, safe. We also don't want cows running around in our backyard or foxes or possums or any of that, stuff. So we will go the route of obviously protecting. And hitting some of the complaints that we have, I can pretty much go through the list and say that all the neighborhood dogs have just the same kind of levels. Odor, a lot of pet owners let their dogs just go in their backyard. They don't pick it up. Attracts flies. There's been plenty of times in my backyard that the wind blows and I get a nice heaping, smell of dog, feces, going through my backyard because near my neighbors don't, scoop. They just let their dogs go out in the backyard and leave it, So at least with chickens, we actually by law have an ordinance that we actually have to clean up, the feces, daily. So if we don't, obviously you guys will take the chickens away, where obviously dogs don't have that same level of criteria. Health concerns, same thing. CDC was cited on some of these with like salmonella and everything that chickens pose. The CDC also lists that dogs have 18 communicable diseases that, humans can get, where chickens have 5. So dogs are more of a health risk to humans than chickens are. Obviously, we already kind of talked about the property value, that we found nothing that really reduces property value. We did find plenty of positive things where there are actually places that offer, free chicken coops in places where you're moving to try and encourage. With the new sustainable, living practices now, that's actually becoming more of a pro having a chicken coop versus a negative. And then noise. I agree. I don't want noisy chickens either. That's why we already said we are picking a breed that's known for being, quiet in general. And based on the positioning, there's the big 6-foot privacy fence right next to where the coop is going to be. So that should alleviate really any noise from, progressing to the back side of the property where the complaint would be coming from. And according to this source that we have, it says chickens have a 60 to 70 decibel level of noise, which is the equivalent of a human conversation, which roosters would be 90 decibels, which is the equivalent of dog barking. Obviously, we can't have roosters, but we have plenty of dogs in the neighborhood that bark quite regularly. And our neighbors do both the left and right of us. I can't go in my backyard and work in my garden without one of the other dogs either barking at me extensively or running into my property and barking at me. So I definitely concur that, noise and other, animals can be, a nuisance, but I don't really see chickens being any worse than what we already have in the neighborhood. All that.
Do you know, and this is a question really anybody can ask, is there manure being spread on the fields around you? Do you guys get manure smell out there? No? Okay.
Maybe, I think every now and again we'll pick up the scent from the water treatment, plant too, depending on the time of year,
Do they, Mark?
I did want to also comment about the positioning of the chicken coop and where we put it. Chickens need to be in the shade, otherwise they'll overheat. So that's the shadiest part of our yard. And they also need to be protected from wind in winter. So that's just why we picked that corner of our lot. It's for the chickens. It wasn't like, it didn't really matter to us.
Guess I have a couple questions for you. One, which way is the back of the chicken coop going to be facing? Is that against, kind of towards the fence, or is it kind of towards your neighbor's property? Do you know what I mean? The back side of the coop, which is the shorter side.
So the shorter side where the
Height-wise, the shorter side.
What's that?
The shorter side's in height. So where you have a front side which has the doors, right? According to the image.
So it's like the access door is going to be facing towards our property, which would be what, east?
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Sorry, south. So in the back of the coop would be towards Sam's, property. And then the egg collecting would be towards the fence side.
Okay. And then next question: are there a bunch of bushes nearby?
Bushes?
Yeah.
Yes, Sam has quite a number of low foliage on his, property underneath the tree area.
Just considering for sound absorption. That's why I'm wondering that. And then next question is: how do you plan to store the food?
Most likely, probably in our garage.
In what kind of container? I guess. Do you have
What's
an
it?
idea?
Yeah, like 5-gallon tub.
And then you mentioned doing some like motion things for deterring some predators and stuff like that. Just that's your main plan for deterring predators?
Yes, possibly investing in the little like water hose shooter things that will blast them, if it comes to that, but we do plan on putting cameras in the coop and another one probably outside the coop to obviously help let us identify if predators are coming after the chickens or not.
And then I assume you're using like a chicken wire for the wire portion of the coop.
We are actually going to use hardware cloth, so
Okay.
the 1/4 inch, whatever, to keep smaller rodents out.
What about on the ground? Are you putting anything on the ground?
Yep, we're going to do cement, which is in the plan, so we
Okay,
do
I
12-inch
missed that.
cement,
Okay. So that covers the entire bottom. I know because I know somebody who had chickens and living in the country and stuff like that, and they end up losing half their chickens because a coyote went underneath. So that's why I was asking that question.
So would they go further than the 12-inch?
I mean, is it only inside for 12 inches?
I know that's what the plans
in-
call for, is a depth of 12 inches deep.
I think their structure only went to the ground. Is all I know. But
Oh, I got you.
I know that sometimes predators can dig underneath. That's why I was
Yeah,
asking that.
yeah, we're gonna definitely put.
It sounds like you've got something to
deterrents.
prevent that from happening.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, chickens eat flies.
I guess that's my questions right now.
And ticks. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, the council has no further questions, so I think we can conclude the hearing part of it. And then, Mark,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I'm not gonna assume anything. Is the council required to decide tonight, or could they postpone the hearing or the result if they wanted to, like, what are the guidelines for decision making?
The ordinance does not require the council to make a decision tonight, but it does require that a decision be made and reduced to writing and mailed to all the parties within 10 days of today.
So tonight,
Probably. Unless you want to meet special for it.
unless you
yes.
want a special meeting. Well, I do want to comment, like, I appreciate everybody coming tonight and your thoughtful discussion and your thoughtful presentation and the tone tonight. I appreciate that very much, so thank you very much for that. How many minutes do you think you want to think? Do you want some thinking time?
I guess based on what we've heard, I'm going to make a motion to approve the permit. And some of the reasoning behind that is a lot of the complaints are things that if our ordinance is followed, I think that should prevent the problems from occurring. It sounds like they thought of ways to deter, take care of some of the other issues that aren't necessarily covered in the ordinance. And so by following the letter of our ordinance, I don't have a reason to deny them that.
I'll second that. I think I'll also provide a little bit of explanation. We had presentations from other people wanting to pass the chicken ordinance. And we listened to both sides. We even revised it at one point based on input from folks. I would agree with Ryan that most of the objections are objections. If things go bad, then this will happen. In fact, our experience so far has been to the contrary of that. I don't believe that we've had instances where we've had to enforce because of neighbors' complaints. In the instances where we have granted the permits, it sounds as if we've got some folks who are quite responsible. The design of the chicken coop, I wouldn't mind it next to my house. My experience is I have not had chickens next door. Do have a daughter who lives in a very nice neighborhood who has neighborhood chickens next door. Have spent some time there. And in fact, in that instance, the coop is directly on the lot line. It has simply not been an issue, not been a problem. So with that, I'm seconding the application for the permit.
Is there further comment or discussion that the council would like to have? There's a motion and there is a second, but this is an opportunity for further discussion to take place or questions or concerns to be brought up again.
I just want to, I appreciate the concerns that everybody has for the areas that they live in. And I really appreciate the fact that the Dulls have, in fact, put things, addressed one thing after the other so that there won't be any problems. But I do have a question for Mark because I don't have the ordinance in front of me. Do we have, if there is a problem, is there a time that we allow? Or is it just, if there is a problem, it's just on complaint base?
To answer the last part of your question, it would, as with most ordinances, we'd be complaint-based in that the village doesn't necessarily invest resources in inspecting, if that's what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's not required in the ordinances, and that's really not required, I don't know, in most ordinances. The city, really no city I'm aware of has that, those resources to do that on a proactive basis. So, other than fire inspection. So, it would be probably on that basis, and that the ordinance does provide that if there's, what, you want to go up on that? There was, if there's, said there was a nuisance, right? Oh, yeah. So they can't be kept in a way that causes any nuisance or unhealthy condition or otherwise interfere with the normal use of property. So there is those standards in there, and so if neighbors feel that is the situation, even if they're otherwise complying with the requirements, they can always make that complaint to the city, and the city can inspect that to determine whether that is the case.
Well, and I appreciate the situation with the wild animals because I have that kind of a situation around my house too. Um, that was really all that I wanted to know. I wasn't sure about any complaint process with the ordinance. Thank you.
And I think we find wild animals throughout the entire city. It's just the way that our city is shaped and the size we are.
Is there any other questions or comments? All right, there's a motion and there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Is there anyone opposed? The permit is granted.
I am abstaining
Okay.
for business purposes.
Oh, okay. All right. So I wish everyone the best of luck. I hope it goes well. And I anticipate that if it doesn't, that you will please let us know. Thank you very much. And thank you for participating in our very first chicken hearing. Okay, let me get back to the agenda. I have to go back up, right? I don't even. Here we go. Discussion and possible action regarding a conditional use permit for the school district of Milton for grandstand and press box at the high school stadium.
The school district of Milton has submitted a conditional use permit application to redevelop the grandstand and press box at the high school located at 114 West High Street. The high school is building a new grandstand and press box. Since the property is zoned R3, a conditional use permit is required for all graded schools and related structures. City administration recommends approving the conditional use permit, and the planning commission heard this earlier and recommends as well to approve the conditional use permit.
We don't have anybody here from the school district.
They came to the planning commission and spoke. And the planning commission did recommend approval. So, anything else from anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use.
And I'll second that, with the comment that this really looks terrific.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And just so you know, like the school district brought the design person with them to the planning commission meeting, so. Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. Okay. We're going down to 12 or whatever, right? Discussion and possible action regarding retention pond safety measures and ordinances. So I put this on the agenda being proactive because it has already come up. It's we had a situation already with one of our retention ponds and a kid a couple of years back where they almost lost their life. And then when we were discussing in front of Plan Commission the development of the apartment buildings on Parkview Drive, it was brought up by concerned residents, the retention pond safety with the proximity of the retention ponds to the apartment development. And then we had a tragedy in Sun Prairie where 2 children lost their lives in the retention pond. And I know that Sun Prairie is putting up a fence. Now, I put this on the agenda if the council wanted to talk about it or direct staff to look at any possibilities or if we wanted to think about anything around ordinances. So I just put it on the agenda to be proactive. We do have a lot of residential development taking place. So I put it on the agenda. If there's any comments or discussion that council has.
Yes, I would like it addressed, to look at how, you know, how other communities are handling it, and if there's a, you know, some type of regulation that there's some consistency being looked at.
It'd also be nice to know how many water retention ponds we have in the city.
Where they're
And where
located,
they're located,
I guess,
yep.
where they're located
Both.
too. I know that they're proposing, there is some proposals around statewide legislation that's been talked about due to this recent incident. It's probably been talked about at other times, but anything else for anyone?
Just asking for some clarification. Number of retention ponds, are you looking for public, private, or both?
I think public, because that's all we can control, right?
That's
Then
what
just
I
public.
believe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess when we're looking at new developments on private property, that would be.
Moving in the future, we could. I
That'd
don't
be
think
a
we can
future.
retroactively
Oh,
make
no, not
those
retroactively,
requirements.
no.
We're talking about
So
ones we
public
currently-
now, but looking in for what they're doing for private ones.
Correct.
In the surrounding area.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for a count, we want, the public ones right now, the ones we can actually have control.
Thank you.
I think it's important too that, I mean, people need to understand the difference between a retention pond and detention pond. So that's something that we need to maybe try to educate the public better.
So part of when we're thinking about a public safety issue, we talk about public awareness and public education. So is there any interest in having some examples about public education and public awareness campaigns? I would imagine there's going to be something coming out of this around public education and public awareness, but that would be something that we would potentially that's something you can do sooner rather than later, right? If there's a public education campaign that's already in place to look at,
Right.
not do other things, but just like are there things that we can do now?
I mean, there are also misunderstandings of what to prepare them for. I mean, most retention ponds are designed so that they can come to a level and they're back to normal within a relatively short amount of time. But as some of us can recall, a couple years ago, we had tons of storms and water building in these areas over the course of, 5 or 6 days, and our streets were flooded and all these areas, and that water didn't get back down for quite a few days. And so families still need to be prepared for those types of occasions as well, because those would not necessarily be blocked off enough to help children understand that they need to stay away from that water regardless.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And we can't really legislate parenting and personal accountability, but we certainly can do what we can for public awareness around it too. Anything else on this issue? Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding change order number 3 for the West Tower Rehabilitation Project.
So this is a change order for the West Tower project. Similar to other projects, when they're completed, we present the final change order to council to marry up the actual costs with what they are in the field. This change order in particular ends up being a credit of $8,500, and the work that's due to the extra work that the contractor had to perform. If you recall, there was a change order and an engineering agreement amendment for additional engineering services. The estimated amount was more than what it actually was, so therefore there's a credit being returned to the city on the final project construction cost. We recommend approval of this change order.
I'll make a motion to approve the change order presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Discussion and possible action regarding a work order from Baxter and Woodman for local limits evaluation services.
So as part of the recently overhauled sewer use ordinance that was completed last year, it allows for the city the ability to permit industrial users. Before we can put permits into effect, we need to understand what is being discharged to our treatment plant, the performance of our treatment plant, and potentially where some of these pollutants are coming from. This sampling and the local limits survey are done to determine those pieces of the pretreatment permits. The Baxter Woodman has prepared a not to exceed fee of $25,000 for the work. There will also be some sampling costs associated with the project that are not included with that amount. We're recommending approval.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the work order for local limits evaluation engineering services.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. Discussion and possible action to authorize the appointment of additional election officials for January 2024 through December of 2025 election cycle.
In December, we had appointed, the council had appointed our original list of election officials for the upcoming election cycle. We have had one person drop out, and we have another person, Richard Klotz, who is interested in applying for that and being part of this year's elections. So we have in the past, we have appointed additional because of scheduling conflicts that some people may have. So Richard Klotz would like to be on our list.
Is there a motion?
I was gonna get that checked.
Okay. I move to approve the addition of Richard Clouds to the election cycle of January 24th through December 25.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Okay, discussion and direction regarding city hall cameras.
Last month, there was an accident that occurred in the City Hall parking lot. City Hall security cameras did not record the accident. City Hall cameras are currently set to record people entering and exiting rather than recording the parking lot. We're requesting some direction from council whether the current cameras are sufficient, should be refocused to record the parking lot, or should we investigate purchasing additional cameras?
What does the police chief think?
And did you solve that accident?
Where the accident took place, it was out of view of the cameras. Had it been daytime, that may have been a different story. It would help paint a little bit more of a picture. But due to the nighttime or dusk hours, it was limitless. Or we were very limited with what we could come up with. The software is a challenge to use currently to download the content. It's easily viewable, but even with direction from Ignitec and follow-up documents to download the content or media that I wanted to review, I still have not been able to do that. That in consideration though, the cameras for the size of this building I feel are sufficient. It's challenging to still capture the entirety of a building and the property surrounding it. But that being said, with several other cameras, you probably would be able to do that. I just don't know what the cost is to incorporate new cameras into an older system.
I have a question. So, would we need to do, if we went with these outside cameras, we have to do one at both ends of the building, correct?
There would have to be more than just two to capture, if we're talking about property security or just parking lot security and viewing that, you would have to add several cameras.
Where did it take place? Do we know the location?
The accident itself was just outside of, on the southwest corner of the property where the property, I guess the parking lot L's off to go on the south side of the building. So the camera that is right outside of City Hall entrance captured the vehicle backing out, but you could not see the struck vehicle due to the angle of the camera.
Paul, do you think we need more cameras?
So is that right around here? So is there cameras for staff going in and out of the building?
There are cameras for staff.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got
The
it.
cameras
It's
are
just a-
directed right now at the two doors and where the staff parks currently. I think staff is comfortable. I just wanted to see if you guys wanted to expand our camera usage to see if we should be recording all comings and goings of cars as well.
Trail cams are not an option.
Trail cams walk off.
Trail cams aren't a viable option. They're just not up to snuff.
I'd ask the question as to whether or not it's worth exploring. It sounds as if the software is difficult to, the current software is difficult to use. You know, perhaps exploring it as a possibility for 2025 might make some sense.
You're thinking like a system upgrade?
Yeah.
And replace all the cameras?
Yeah.
And look at those?
With you know, I think if we're in the market, we'd get plenty of advice without paying a lot in terms of what people think we might need, and we'd be able to review that, I think, with very little cost.
Do we know how old those cameras currently are?
I believe they're 2021 actually. So it was I believe January or February. It was right before I started.
So I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to explore options to upgrade our camera system software, and that could include adding cameras or using the existing cameras with some pricing options.
For the parking lot.
For the
I'll
parking
second
lot.
that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? There you go. All you have to ask for work and they'll give it to you. Okay. It's never ending. All right, general items. I'm just gonna have Chief Pickering go because he's been sitting here for a long time. So if you would like to go ahead and do a report on Lakeside Fire Rescue, you all should have a document in front of you.
I don't think he should get out of team building though,
Oh, he's
Mayor.
not getting out of team building.
Okay, just wanted a point of clarification. You can't leave.
Do you want to move up team building?
So I've been tested for just about everything. So other than just not having a voice, don't panic. This report, probably relatively important in the context that it addresses a full year of activity. So when you start to think about where we are and all those sorts of things, this gives you a snapshot of a year. It does reflect the fact, obviously, we didn't take over the Eastern Division until February, right? So not exactly perfect. Ended the year with 2019 911 calls. So it just kind of gives you a general context. About just shy of 1,700 of those were EMS. The national standard is about 1,000 calls per ambulance in service. So you can kind of see, you know, we have two primary ambulances in service, one east, one west, but we have the backups behind them. And we're kind of bumping up against, you know, probably where we're at, which then brings you to the far right-hand side, the call out. In blue, we had 171 times during the year where we had multiple incidents going either east or west. Again, I probably said it a couple of times. This does not count one going east and one going west. This means we've got multiple incidents going within the east or multiple going within the west. I think the thing that stood out to me was that in 2022 we had 124. So that means you almost a 50% increase year over year in the number of multiple incidents happening. It just sort of reinforces what I think all of you are aware of, and certainly what Chief sees on the law enforcement side. We're just busy as heck, which is not a good thing, but it is what it is. I did highlight the city of Milton, just so you can look at where you fell. Again, this is 11 months, not 12. 541 911 incidents for the year. Second within the district. I wouldn't suggest striving to get to first. But it reflects the population and the activity within the community. I don't think that's an abnormal number. It is what it is. Average response time across the city for the year, 5 minutes and 43 seconds. I think that pretty clearly talks about where our Station 3 is today and where Milton is growing to the east, right? And so it's outside of the norm, and the plans are to address that. So I'm not suggesting we do anything different. It just sort of reinforces where we thought we were going in the first place. Fire inspections, Jenny, when you get the request from the state to certify that 100% of your fire inspections were conducted during 2023, the answer is yes, they were. Jeremy did just a phenomenal job, and really not a lot of issues, just really, really well done. Staffing, comes, goes, all that kind of stuff, but I think for the most part, we're in pretty good shape. We've got a good pool so far, so as people have come and gone, we've been able to backfill them. At the end of the calendar year, we usually have conversations with people, mainly on the paid on call, paid on premise side, about participation. So people who are not meeting the minimum requirements that we expect of our paid on call. Excuse me. And you do tend to see that there are some people that then resign at the end of the year. Some, just because life gets busy and they have other things. Some because of kids and, wanting to spend youth time with their kids and all that kind of stuff. None of this is bad. It's just we have more of it at the end of the year because that's usually when we're reviewing it with everybody. The backside, the financials, the board, we had a lot of discussion about this. We did end the year 58,000 over budget. In the blue are the major drivers, the things that were out of the norm and stood way out. There is an outstanding FAP payment from the state. We're still pursuing that, so that may or may not come in. Our revenue projections for the east, maybe we're a little bit more optimistic. I reviewed this with staff today, and one of our shift captains brought something up that I really never thought about. So I give him a lot of credit for really trying to think this through. When we integrated the two departments, everyone is familiar with where Mallwood is. And Mallwood represents 30% of all of the town of Milton's population. And there's a lot of calls in Mallwood. So we changed the response patterns, and so it's the Edgerton station that is responding out to Mallwood now, not the city of Milton station, just because of proximity. That probably shifted a fair amount of revenue between the east and the west. And I give Chris a lot of credit for really thinking through this. And so, no, is that $51,000? Maybe not, right? But again, there may be some reasons behind this that are not negative. They're just getting used to what our new organization looks like. So the other one, is the shortfall in our interfacility transfer line of business, which is not tied to 911 in any way, shape, or form. That is Medicare driven, and I could spend hours talking about what we're trying to do to fix that. It is a real problem. But the thing I point out, because that crew is based out of Edgerton, so I spend more time talking about this with the western communities. But having that crew in the station is what allowed us to handle a large number of those 171 simultaneous calls, right? Because without that second crew there, when they're not doing a transfer, we'd have had to bring in a mutual aid ambulance from somewhere else. So there is at least, I believe, a very strong benefit outside of just the interfacility transfer for having that crew and what it does to help us on the 911 side. And then the last thing was overtime costs. I'd love to say we could predict this stuff, but I'm not sure how. In the last 2 months of the year, because of very miscellaneous and unrelated issues, we ended up with 5 people on either light duty or workers' comp. A sprained ankle, a hernia, a shoulder issue, just a couple of ones. And it all hit us in the last 2 months of the year. So there was a tremendous amount of overtime. I said to the board, and if anybody thinks it was the wrong decision, I'm a big boy, I can take it. But we did make sure that all of those ambulances were staffed all the time, which took, in essence, 5 people on overtime to do. So yes, we sort of caused that. I'll take the hit if somebody thinks that was the wrong thing to do, right? I mean, just the way the district works, we do have good reserves, so the district reserves covers that overage. But what we do now during the next year is look for ways to then rebuild the reserves. So, we're doing some things to maybe penny pinch a little bit to make sure we can get that reserve back up to where it was before we started. Big things that went on, and we kind of chuckle, Whitewater had a really bad day. We were in Whitewater 3 times in one day for large fires. That's a bad day. But we all work together and we help each other out. We did have a relatively minor fire in the town of Harmony, and then a more significant one in the town of Milton. It was sad when it happens 2 days before Christmas. But it was a fire that started from the chimney that started in the attic. And so it was probably burning for a fair amount of time before the people even knew anything was wrong because it was up in the attic and everything. Crews did a phenomenal job getting it knocked down. The house is standing. There's a whole bunch of drywall that needs to be replaced. But they'll be back in there in a relatively short amount of time for what it could have been, because that could have easily gone to the ground. We are working with Cedar Corp. We did Baxter Woodman. We asked both of the engineering companies that our district municipalities work with. Baxter was very helpful. They just didn't have the bandwidth right now to work with us. The company that does the same thing for Edgerton, a company by the name of Cedar Corp, did have somebody they could assign to us. So we are working with Cedar Corp. They're going to do the filing with the USDA for the low interest rural development loans in support of the fire station projects. And again, Paul, you're probably very familiar. Given the size and order and magnitude of what we're talking about, this is a really big deal, and we want to get it right. And Cedar Corp has a good history of doing that. A lot of certifications, good thing. People investing in themselves. Couple of minor things with apparatus and there are a couple of special meetings that the board talked about last week. On January 31st, we're actually going to have Brent Sutherland, who's the Director of Facilities for Rock County. And obviously, Rock County has built a lot of buildings in the last 5 or 6 years. Brent is going to come in and do a presentation on construction management methods. Use of a construction manager, use of a general contractor. There's different ways you go about this. Brent, as he will tell you, has got experience, good and bad, with all of the different methods, and I think he's going to be very helpful. We did not want to bring somebody from the industry in to talk about it because they're going to have a vested interest in the answer. Brent has absolutely no vested interest in the answer. I think he'll be very consultative and very helpful. And then the other thing that's been going on, and I can't remember if we talked about it here or not before, a couple of our municipalities asked about the fairness, their word, not mine, the fairness of our funding formula. We do everything based on equalized value. But there are some municipalities that have much higher populations. There's just a whole bunch of factors that can go into how you divide up cost. And so we were asked formally to do an assessment of the fairness of how our funding formula is developed. I'm not going to spill the beans. We've done a tremendous amount of work with it. But I will suggest that the people who think it is terribly unfair are probably going to be disappointed. It actually works out maybe more interesting than some people thought. So that meeting is then also on the 31st. The other meeting that just got set today is on the 29th, on Monday evening. We'll bring the board together. Our architects are at the point where the schematic design and engineering design are done or will be done on all 4 of the proposed buildings, and we'll start to get the first look at what that might mean from a cost perspective. We want to go through that with the board, let them start to question, things that, and again, Lynn and Teresa have been deeply involved, and I really can't thank them enough. Every meeting, which has been a lot. I think every building has been questioned at every step along the way, but now we're going to have the fun, kind of the big picture answer to start looking at. So we'll go through that with the board, and the plan is then once the board decides what they would want, what they would recommend moving forward with, then we bring all 10 of our municipality elected bodies together, and we go through a very deep analysis for you of what the whole thing looks like. Apologize for a terrible delivery.
Any questions from council for Chief Pickering?
Support, thank
I
you.
just want to say Bill Wilson has sat in some long meetings too. And I just want to thank all of you.
I
for
was in
sitting
a
with us.
meeting with Brent Sutherland this morning. And in fact, this is a wonderful day. We had 2 change orders that were for the positive. We had a change order for the new Public Safety and Justice building as well. So, and I don't know whether you know this, but Brent Sutherland was at one point the mayor of the city of Milton about 30 years ago. So.
That's right.
And he was also on Milton EMS, so he kind of understands the topic. Yeah. I didn't know that till I sat down talking to him. Thank you, folks.
Thank
Get some
you.
rest.
Yes. Rest.
Get some rest.
The moms have spoken. Okay, any other committee reports to share?
Historic preservation meets tomorrow.
Are we done?
I met with the police commission last week. They approved their bylaws that they have been working on for quite some time, and then just provided them with an update with some of our stuff that'll kind of carry on to my committee, my staff report, but I'll kind of touch on it now. Just gave them an update that our squad cars that were purchased in 2023 finally arrived and are being upfitted, so quite delayed. I had already put the order in for the 2024 one. And then we just talked about some other ways that I had proposed to generate some additional revenue for the police department. And then squad savings actually came in with the 2024 squad that I just ordered that was under budget, which was shocking.
That is shocking. Good news.
Yeah, other than that, not a whole lot else that was covered aside from the revision and review of the bylaws.
Thank you. I appreciate having that. We haven't routinely had police commission reports, so I think that's helpful for the council to be updated. Anything else as far as committee before staff? Okay. So, Mark, I know it's been really boring and you guys have had nothing to do, but can you share just a little bit something?
A lot of snow. The staff's been doing a really good job. We have had a couple equipment challenges, but they're keeping up. Just ask for patience from the public. It's going to be cold. The snow's not going to melt in the streets. It's going to be tough for the next week or so. And then it looks like we got a little warm up. But other than that, just the routine offerings for January.
Kelsey, anything? You can pass.
I'm just working through year end, and at next meeting, I'll have a better update of where we stand for the end of 2023 as we finalize everything that's been coming in still. So, just working
So there
through
might
that.
be a budget amendment?
Possibly.
She's just going to keep us in suspense. Ashley?
Our annual community survey is out, and we're collecting information of how people have used the library in the last 12 months, and we'll use that information in our upcoming strategic plan process. Next week, we are debuting cake pans and cookie cutters that people can check out. So we're going to have a cake pan and cookie cutter collection of unique shaped baking supplies. And then I'm hoping to share some more numbers from 2023 with council soon, but we did see a 10,000 more library visits in 2023 than 2022. We had just under 700 library programs with just under 18,000 program participants. So we had a busy year in 2023.
Awesome. Chief, back to you.
I thought Ashley was going to steal this, but just some updates we're doing. We're kicking off, they were nice enough to let us join in a library reading program where officers jump in to help out with story time. Hopefully I'll be reading at or below my grade level. So everybody in the department has had an opportunity to sign up for some time slots, some during the daytime, some during the afternoon hours. So they'll, over the next month, there should be a good mix of officers coming in just so they see the police officers outside of a squad car and actually reading to them and connecting on a different level. And that kind of ties into some of the community services that we're going to be launching for the police department with just kind of being more involved with the community and offering more than just the drug drop box in the front of our lobby. So bolstering our citizen ride-along program and publicizing that more. So it's out there for the high school students, and I've had a few reach out to me inquiring about that. So kind of finalizing that policy that we have in place and promoting that for the officers. Also vacation checks for residents and businesses if they're going to be gone for an extended period of time. Just something else where officers are made aware of that and it's not publicly listed anywhere where people are helping out in the vacation check process. And then I'm looking at some area hospitals to partner with for bike helmet acquisition to provide to youth in the community. Oftentimes you see kids riding off without helmets. Or the kids have them on and the parents don't, so trying to get everybody to slap a helmet on their head because that is kind of an issue in some jurisdictions. Where I came from, there were a lot of injuries related to kids not wearing helmets, so something that I see as an option here to incorporate. Like I said, we got the squads being upfitted right now, and I'm also looking at rolling out next week our updated mission, vision, and shared values for the agency, which was a collaboration department-wide. So look for that next week.
Wow, you've been very busy in January.
And the end of December, yes.
Good job. All right, Jenny?
I don't want to go up to that long list.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah. So we'll start out with it is the start of election season. I keep saying that, but it really is with training. So tomorrow I will be going to some training in Rock County. First, probably many. This is specific for city clerks and chief election inspectors, and it relates to security. So it's something that will be bringing back ideas for Chief Saxey. And then I'm going to go on another portion is chickens and bees and quail and some of our permits. As we go through these, we are receiving some information from residents that they have questions that keep coming up. So our staff is actually working through kind of changing those applications and adding more instructions to help people as they're going through these. So kind of exciting process to see it from the other view.
Paul.
Staff is working on getting a ATV route group together, do some presentations to the public. We're attempting to have someone from the DNR here, as well as someone from Rock County Highway Department, speak on ATVs and ATV routes, so we can have some information. I will update you when we have that date set. Also, I met last week with our realtors, and have another opportunity in the business park that may or may not work out. We're still in the beginning talks there, but also looking at a parcel that we may be interested in acquiring, and I will be talking with the community development group committee on that.
All right. Team building. Okay. Here are your options that Mark gave me. Okay. We can do something related to food, football, or fill in the blank. I mean, you all have to come to a consensus. A food-related question. What else did I say?
Actually, stay in football.
Football-related question.
Sure,
Or fill in the blank. Okay. Football. Football. Hey, what do you want to tell me about football?
The Packers won the last game, and they have a game coming up this Sunday, and I'm sure that they're going to win again.
Game Saturday.
Saturday.
Somebody on the Cowboy staff's gonna get fired.
What else?
This season has definitely gone beyond my expectations, but midway through, I was like, oh, this is kind of a crappy season, but we are here in the playoffs, and it's amazing. It really is.
What little joy librarians get. No.
It is so much fun watching the Buffalo Bills play football.
I played football in high school, and I was not very good at it. But I do remember one particular game we played in 6 inches of snow, unlike the Buffalo Bills will.
Okay, I'm gonna go because I don't watch a lot of football, but I did see, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the Steelers that they had to. Is that correct? No, I'm not. I'm trying to think of is it the Steelers that they had to shovel out their stadium? Buffalo. Okay.
Buffalo.
Okay. Well, and so that they were getting paid $20 an hour, and so there were some videos, and I have to say those are some very dedicated people that really wanted to watch their football game.
Okay, I'm just gonna, since you brought that up, I just want to say, like, Packer fans line up to shovel out Lambeau Field, and they would do it for free.
I think they get paid.
I know they do.
Okay,
They do
okay.
get
They
paid, but
wouldn't.
what I'm saying is that we have the best fans in the world.
I believe
I
they
did
get
not
paid in
think,
cash.
I did not know this was a thing.
From what I hear, they get paid in cash because people were just keeping the checks, and they were tired of the checks just never getting cashed because people would frame them. So they pay in cash now.
Okay, does anybody want to define team building for Charla? She seems to be a little bit new. It
Yeah, what
is
are you,
not
new?
her first rodeo. It's at least her second rodeo.
Okay, I don't watch football very often. I go for the social aspect. So all I know about football is that it's a great thing to have for the community, and I'm very excited for the new bleachers and stands and everything that we're looking at. How about that?
Nice job, Charla.
I'll piggyback sort of off of Charla, not knowing a ton about football. I'm there for the snacks. I was hoping we were going to talk about food tonight.
It didn't prohibit you from talking about football and food.
Okay, well, I'm here for the snacks and Super Bowl food and stuff, so.
My wife's best friend, her husband, is one of the Green Bay Packer coaches for the offensive line, and we got field passes for the Rams game this year, so we got to go down prior to the game and shake hands, throw football with him, and meet Coach LaFleur and a couple of the guys, so that was quite the highlight. Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's right. That is not helping anything.
Mike's getting turned off.
Who asked you? That's awesome. That's pretty awesome. We're all jealous. It's that green envy that comes out. Did Teresa go yet?
No, well,
We have to say it in the microphone. It has to be for the record.
I wore the right colors. Did anyone else? Green and gold. It's as close as I could get.
Okay, I haven't worn Packer attire since they started winning, so now I can no longer wear Packer attire because I don't want to jinx them winning. I'm taking one for the team.
So.
Yeah, so suspicious behavior or superstitious behavior around football. But we have Randy and Ken that can pick up the slack for you two too.
This is kind of a neat fact, but I am a Packers fan, so this was a really big disappointment. But I don't know if anybody remembers the replacement refs and the Fail Mary game in Seattle. I was there.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. Ken? For sure. For sure. All right. It's the Mark and the Randy, right? We got everybody else?
Eric.
Eric and Linda?
Linda won.
Linda what?
Except if
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, mine's just quick, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Packers, but does anybody remember when the Big Ten was the Big Ten?
Yeah, that's right. All right, you just Google that.
Better off not knowing.
Yeah. So, so one of the things we tell our interns when they start new is to just start keeping a log of, and I got to believe it's true with rookie officers as well. You know, over your lifetime, there are just going to be stories that are hilarious. So without breaking HIPAA rules in any way, shape, or form, we were at a football game one night, and a young man was injured out on the field. The paramedic, who happened to be a female, came out, and we were assisting him, got him in the back of the ambulance. It was a reasonably significant injury. And get him to the hospital, and I had noticed the entire way to the hospital. I mean, the kid was just distraught because he wanted to be on the football field. He did not want to be in the back of an ambulance. Now, his ankle was aimed a different direction, so it was just slightly problematic. And she held his hand all the way to the hospital, just consoling him and doing everything that a caregiver, right, should be doing, right? And so I actually sort of complimented her as we were leaving the hospital. And she goes, "Oh, no, you don't know the story." Okay. That was my daughter's ex-boyfriend.
That's very cute. It is a small world. All right, we got everybody in? Good job.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. We did. All right. I don't know where my book is. I'm waiting. No.
You want to just go? I'll make a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C Wisconsin Stats, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data over any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility regarding police chief.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we'll just mosey over to closed session.
2 words.
Well, take care, Randy.
That's up to the board.
Do we have to vote now? What did Ken want